Howdy folks, and welcome back to Refshaw Outdoors. Today we're going to talk about the rise of all copper bullets. So over here is the 30-06 with the 165 grain Barnes tip triple shock. And over here we got a 162 grain Winchester copper impact in 6.8 Western. Now, when they first come out with these all copper bullets, the Barnes X bullet was kind of the one that started it. You know, whenever something new comes out, people are going to shy away from it. You know, what is this? You know, we've used lead for hundreds of years. And all copper, that's just a conspiracy. They want to take away our lead bullets. And I, too, was very much of that mindset when they first started coming out with this stuff. You know, and I would ask people, oh, geez, wouldn't that be like a full metal jacket? If you think about it, that's more or less what a full metal jacket is. It's all copper. You think, oh, that's way too hard. That's no good. Well, now that they've been used and they're really gaining in popularity, I think just about every major manufacturer makes an all copper bullet. But once you understand the mechanics of bullet design, it makes more sense. And all copper bullets have gotten so popular because they work. More people really, they'll trust the Barnes TTSX. That is their favorite bullet for big game, hands down. A lot of people love that one. But if we explain kind of the mechanics of bullet expansion and how it works. Now in the middle, I've got just a regular old, that is 165 grain Speer hot core in the 30-06. And you know, all that is, you got your copper jacket and there's a lead core inside of the jacket. And one of the cool things about the Speer hot core is they actually pour molten lead into the jacket instead of just ramming a cold piece of lead and squish forming it, because lead is really soft. And that's how most cup and core bullets are made. Now, of course, you got the Remington core locks and the Hornady interlocks, which they're a little different. But the main point is the same. It's a soft point, lead soft point. And you know, now maybe I'm being Captain Obvious here, but when that bullet hits, the soft point it immediately mushrooms out and starts peeling back the layers, and it peels back the copper. And depending on your impact velocity, the lead core can separate from the jacket. And when that happens, you're losing mass. And when you lose mass, you're losing momentum. You know, obviously velocity. And a lot of times that bullet will not exit. Now, some people say, oh, you want that bullet to end up right on the off side, right under the hide, because then the bullet dumped all of its energy into that animal. I don't agree with that analogy at all. It still dumped all of its energy and and it didn't lose its energy so fast. A bullet should pass through a whitetail. A whitetail is not that big. Now, Minnesota whitetails, yeah, they're bigger. Canadian whitetails, they're, you know. But a 30-06 should have no problem passing through a whitetail. Both lungs, the hide, everything. If it doesn't, it lost its energy quickly. Now, Alaskan moose, that's a totally different story because those things are a lot bigger than a whitetail. But, whoops. Anyway, but that is the idea. Now, another thing, even if your bullet doesn't come apart, you know, as it's traveling through that animal, it's, like I said, lead is really soft. It's rubbing, you know, it's going to be abrasive. So lead is coming off the entire time it's going through the animal. That's why you end up with bloodshot meat. And you're losing momentum. You're losing mass. You're losing velocity. You're losing energy. And now people are going to say, well, shot placement. Well, yeah, shot placement, sure. If you shoot them in the head or the spine, yeah, they'll go right down. Depending on the bullet, like this Barnes, through both shoulders on a whitetail, knocks them right over. But if we're talking small bullets, there's a huge difference between, yes, anything will kill a whitetail. Recovering them is a different story. So that's why whoever came up with the great idea of the all copper bullet, and like I said, when they first came out, I was leery of the idea. Of course, I was just I don't even think I was born yet when they first came out, but they didn't really start getting popular until the last 10 years probably. But the idea of these, now this is, obviously, they have a polymer tip, which some people, oh my God, ballistic tips are junk. The way these all copper bullets work is it's a hollow point. And so when it makes contact, that polymer tip disintegrates. It's supposed to. That's the idea. It exposes the hollow point, and we all know a hollow point fills with tissue, and by the physics, I don't know if it's not really hydraulics, hydrostatic, whatever, causes it to open up. Lead, solid copper, it's all going to do the same thing. Now, on a lead hollow point, the idea is to not get as much penetration, at least with a handgun. You want to limit penetration, you know, so you're not taking out stuff you don't want to take out. With an all copper bullet, it's hard enough, and it's not nearly as soft as lead. So it generally, the Barnes, they say like 4 petals should peel back. So then it's almost acting like a broadhead. But obviously it's going to cause a lot more damage than a broadhead because it's moving way faster. And so you get that wound channel. And if you ever watch high-speed ballistic shooting into or a high-speed camera, when you shoot in a ballistics gel, you know what the wound channel does. And that bullet stays together. And when they are recovered, because the outfitter I worked for up in Alaska, he used the Barnes triple shocks in his 300 Weatherby as for a backup rifle. And he backed up a lot of clients. I watched him during my apprenticeship. And we recovered, not everyone, but we recovered quite a bit. Now, again, a moose is way bigger than a whitetail. And that is totally, it's going to say, you can't really say that the all copper bullet failed because it didn't completely penetrate through a moose, because that's a totally different story. But a moose there's recovery when it comes to moose. Obviously, Lord help you if they get to water. But a whitetail, a lot of times we're hunting in sloughs, tall slough grass, or brush, creek bottoms. If deer get down into that and you don't have an exit wound, good luck finding them. Unless you literally, with your own eyes, watch them go down and stay down. Even in snow, I've had poorly constructed bullets that did not fully penetrate, and deer hardly bled at all. Even in snow, you couldn't track. That was 30-06. It was actually 165 grain Winchester PowerPoints. Factory load. So I like Winchester, especially their guns. Had pretty good luck with some of their other bullets and stuff. But anyway, I don't like the PowerPoints in the 30-06. 30-30, that's a different story. But anyway, now this video is getting long again, but here we got the 6.8 Western, which, that's a 0.2 or 0.277 diameter bullet. Obviously 30-06 is 0.308. 168 grain, I'd say that's mid-range for 30-06. 162, this is actually kind of light for the 6.8 Western, but again, with the copper bullet, you don't need as much mass because you're not losing that mass when it contacts tissue, which in turn increases your velocity, increases your energy. Now, obviously, TKO is going to be lower on a 277 compared to a 308. Some people don't pay any attention to Taylor knockout. Some people think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't know. I tend to lean more that it's an important factor to look at, but it's not the end-all be-all. But this Winchester Copper Impact is basically the same thing. If I'm not mistaken, I think that the Federal Trophy Copper is more or less the same thing. I don't know, a hollow point copper bullet with a polymer tip. Most people that I have talked to, a lot of people in Alaska, coastal Alaska, they're hunting blacktails. Sitka blacktail deer are pretty doggone small. But people hunt them with 300 mags. 338-06 is kind of common. 35 Whalen is getting to be more common. 30-06 obviously, but with a good tough bullet like the Barnes tip triple shock, in case you run into a hungry bear. And I actually, when I was working with a charter fishing lodge, one of the captains and his deckhand, they went out deer hunting the end of the fishing season, and I don't know how many, if they got one or two deer, but they were getting them, packing them up on their backs. I don't know the whole story, if they were making a backpack out of the deer or if they boned them out, but the bears were coming in and they heard those shots and here they come. They wanted the guts, and myself, I've had bears come into camp in the middle of the night and drag off 250-pound moose quarters. I've quartered out a moose and then gone back the next day to get it with the pack string, and there's a bear had buried the gut pile and rib cage, laying on top of it. That time, the bear was gone when I got there, but that could have been bad because, bears, that's their meat now. But Anyway, so that's where the all copper bullet it starts to shine. It almost acts in a way like a hard cast lead. So, but your aerodynamic efficiency is way higher than a 4570 with a hard cast. So, for the average shooter, you're gaining a lot by using an all copper bullet with a polymer tip. So, of course, this might be controversial, but this is what I think. It's what I've seen. How what my anecdotal experience has been with all copper bullets, and I really like them. So, anyway, do with that information what you will. I'm Pete Refshaw with Refshaw Outdoors. Keep your powder dry.